Sai Ram. Dear students, today we are going to deal with the chapter Weather, Climate and Adaptation of 7th class part 1. We are already familiar with the term weather and climate from our childhood. Now let us know in detail about this. So if you see here, many of our daily life activities are planned based on the weather prediction. For example, if sky is cloudy, automatically we will carry an umbrella so that we may protect ourselves from heavy rainfall. Similarly, when any function is going to happen in our house, our elders keep discussion about the weather so that they may plan accordingly and the function will go very smoothly. Similarly, when you take in the game of cricket, experts will be discussing about the weather before the commencement of the match, because if the weather is cloudy, automatically what will happen, it may spoil the whole scenario of the game. So for this purpose, what will happen, the weather reports are prepared by the metallurgical department and it is broadcasted on television, radio and newspaper. And this weather report, if you see here, the weather report informs about the temperature, humidity and rainfall for the past 24 hours, and it is prepared by central government organization called metallurgical department. Metallurgical means which deals with the atmosphere. What these weather experts will do is they will collect the data from the satellite station or earth station at the different parts of country, and they will analyze the data and predict the weather. Then we have to understand what do you mean by weather. Weather is nothing but the day-to-day condition of the atmosphere at a place and time with respect to temperature, humidity and rainfall. This temperature, humidity and rainfall are very important in determining the weather of a place. That is why this temperature, rainfall and humidity, we call it as elements of the weather. Even then we have temperature, humidity and rainfall as a characteristics. This weather phenomenon is complicated because it may seem sunny in the early morning, but all of a sudden what will happen, clouds will appear from the sky nowhere and starts raining heavily. On the other hand, what will happen, that heavy rain will stop in a matter of minute and it will give rise to the sunshine. So what I mean to say here is weather is unpredicted. Why it is happening? So who is responsible for the change in this weather means sun is whole responsible. So sun is whole responsible for this, and sun is the sphere of hot gases, or we call it as collection of hot gases at high temperature, and the temperature of the sun nearly it is 6000 degrees centigrade, and it is measured by an instrument called pyrometer. Pyro means fire. Even though the sun is at very distant from us, we can't it has its own duty to perform certain processes like heat and light and photosynthesis, which prepare the food by the plants from themselves. So then the heat energy, we know that sun contains energy called heat energy or solar energy because it is a combination of gases like helium. So because it is a combination of gases, it produces an energy called heat energy. This heat energy is absorbed by the seas and oceans. Whenever it is absorbed by the seas, ocean and earth, they play an important role in determining the nature of the weather. For example, if you take heat of the sun will evaporate the water present in the seas and ocean, and what will happen? This evaporated water will goes up to the atmosphere. As it comes up, automatically what will happen? That water will cool down and it will condense. Condense in the sense these water molecules combine together and form a cloud. This cloud will burst into rainfall and we are calling it as rainy weather. So, sun not only capable of producing rainy weather, it will produce windy weather, humid weather. So, therefore, sun has the capability of changing the weather condition. Next, if you go, as I told you, the elements of the weather are temperature, rainfall and humidity, but we should understand what are the temperatures we are recording. So, we are recording maximum and minimum temperatures every day, and it is recorded by an instrument called maximum and minimum thermometer. We should understand what is meant by maximum temperature. Maximum temperature is the highest temperature where we feel uncomfortable and miserable, yes, especially in summer and that too in the afternoon because of this high temperature. And similarly, on the other hand, if you take, we feel cool and comfortable if the temperature is very low on a particular day, that too in the summer early morning. We call that temperature as minimum temperature. As I told you here, maximum and minimum temperature, they are not constant. They may be changing because it is a part of a weather. It also keeps changing from day to day, week to week and year to year. Okay. So, because this is a part of a weather, maximum and minimum temperatures are a part of a weather, we should understand who will record the weather. So, there should be some person or there should be some experts who will record the weather. So, they are called as meteorologists. So, before going to do this, this is the diagram of maximum and minimum temperature. So, maximum temperature on one side and minimum temperature on other side. By using this, we can record maximum and minimum temperatures. Even we can see the table here what we will record in our weather report. That is, maximum temperature we will record, minimum temperature we will record, minimum humidity we will record, maximum humidity we will record, and we will record rainfall. It may be, it is for annual and it is measured in millimeter. So, this is the table. Humidity means amount of moisture present in the atmosphere. The more the moisture, the more will be the humid weather. The less the moisture, the less will be the humid weather. So, therefore, as already I told you, who will record the weather? Who will record the weather means meteorologists. These are called as weather experts. They will record the weather at various places every day, and the record of these weather has been preserved for several decades, and the purpose of this is they help in maintaining or to determine the weather pattern of a particular place. If you want to go to any place, we can see the history. If you want to see the history, we can study this aspect. So, we can study by studying this aspect of meteorologist record, we can easily identify the climate of a particular place. Similarly, as already I told you, the average weather pattern, I told you whenever you are collecting the record of a particular weather, we call it as weather pattern. It is not collected for 1 year or 2 years, it is collected for several decades. So, that is why I told you here the weather pattern is taken for a long period. So, it is for more than 25 years. I told for example 25 years, more than 25 years, we call it as climate. If you want to determine the climate, we have to know the weather climate for more than 30 years. Then we can easily find out the climate of a particular place. Then who will determine this climate means two important factors, temperature and rainfall. They are very important factors to determine the climate of a place. For example, if you take, if the temperature of the place is high most of the time, then we call the climate of a place is very hot. If there is heavy rainfall most of the day, in the same place. We call it as hot and wet climate. There are different type of climates, but for example I have taken in here hot and wet climate. We have cold climate, we have different type of climates. So it depends upon the weather. And similarly, if you take for our example, for better understanding, we will compare the climates of two places of Indian states like Jammu Kashmir and Thiruvananthapuram. We call it as Trivandrum also. So when you see the table here, in the above table, it is clearly understood. If you see the daily maximum temperature, here it is 4.7, here it is 31.5 in the case of Thiruvananthapuram. So similarly in the case of February, it is 7.8, it is 31.9. Even if you see the rainfall, it is 57 millimeters, it is 23 millimeters. Here in the case of Jammu Kashmir, if in the March, if it is 99 millimeters, it is 40 millimeters. So therefore, by seeing the maximum temperature, we can tell Jammu Kashmir is moderately hot and wet climate. Moderately means it is very less. But if you take Thiruvananthapuram, so Thiruvananthapuram is very hot and wet climate. Why it is very hot and wet climate means Thiruvananthapuram, it is situated on mountain region, but Jammu and Kashmir is situated on flat region. It is flat, and that too Jammu and Kashmir is away from the equator. Thiruvananthapuram is towards the equator. That is the basic reason why it is very hot and wet climate. Thiruvananthapuram is having hot and wet climate. In a similar way, we can take western region of India, one state for example Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, the temperature will be always very hot throughout the year. The basic reason here is because of the presence of Thar desert. This Thar desert will create a climate which is very hot. So we know in the desert region we won't get much rainfall when compared to other regions. We will get very less rainfall. So therefore the temperature or the climate of Rajasthan is hot and dry climate, or similarly we can tell on the whole it is a typical desert climate. So not only this desert, if you take any desert, the climate will be hot and dry climate because of less rainfall. So similar, if you take here, till now we have discussed about weather and climate, but we should understand not only human beings, different animals and plants will also survive in this hot and wet climate like human beings. Okay, so what we have to do here is, if these animals have to survive like human beings, we should have special body features in the body to survive. If they have special body features to survive in the hot and wet climate, we call it as adaptation. Suppose if you go to colder regions, polar regions, we can't survive because ours is equatorial region. In the same way, animals also, they should have specific body features which enable an animal or plant to survive in a particular living region, that we call it as adaptation. For example, we will discuss only two type of regions where different animals are surviving. These are, one is polar region, the other one is rainforest region. If you take the polar region, in the climate it is almost near to earth poles, because earth will be having two poles, north pole and south pole. Automatically the poles region will be always covered with snow, and it is very cold for the parts of the year. For 6 months sun doesn't rise in the polar region, and similarly for other 6 months sun doesn't rise. For this reason, in winters the temperature will be as low as -37 degrees centigrade. If you look at the countries that belong to polar region, we take Canada as an example, Greenland as an example, Sweden as an example, Norway as an example. Like this, where there are different, even you can take Siberian region of Russia. So this is about polar region. When you go to the other region, tropical rainforest, it belong to India, so country like India. So it is very hot climate because it is near to equatorial region, and even in the coldest month, that is in the winter season, the temperature is generally higher than 15 degrees centigrade. Even in the hot summer, it crosses over 40 degrees. The most important property in the tropical region is day and night are almost equal in length throughout the year. These regions, the important property is they get plenty of rainfall because it is a rainforest region. The name itself indicates a rainforest. So thus it has hot and humid climate. Humid in the sense I told you, more amount of moisture will be present, and more than that, because of this heat and rainfall, hot will be there as well as rainfall will be there. This region will support wide variety of animals and plants. Very huge variety of animals and plants will survive in this region. And what are the regions and what are the countries means in tropical rainforest? You can take India as an example, Indonesia as an example, Malaysia as a best example, Brazil as best example, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria and many others. So these are the examples for tropical rainforest region. Till now we have learnt about what is the weather, what are the elements of weather, what are the climates and what is polar region, what is tropical rainforest region. In the next class we are going to understand what are the animals that are survived in these two regions. So these are the concepts that we have dealt in the part 1 of this weather, climate and adaptations. Thank you. Sai Ram.